Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all that good stuff. I'm very lucky that I am not alone today, coming to us all the way from Texas. You know him. He's fantastic. 3C Films. Chris Parker is here. Chris, how you doing, sir?
Hey, thank you so much for having me on, John. It is always great. And lucky I chose a day where you're going to be reviewing Spider-Man. I'm going to hear it live with everybody. I'm so excited.
Please tell me you have the sploosh cup somewhere within reach.
It is in the bedroom for reasons I cannot state why.
I won't even go there. And of course, guys, most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how the show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show is when we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, or a topic you'd like me to address, go ahead and fire it on into our super chat feature. As long as you're watching live, you do have to be watching live to use super chats. And as long as I deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, we'll address it on the second part of the show. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to get things started here, and we're going to start off with this. You know, I was so pleasantly surprised by Wonder Man. I had like no expectations for that show. Like none. Zero expectations.
Neither did I.
Oh my goodness. I almost couldn't care less about it when we were leading into it. It didn't feel like they had a lot of, it didn't feel like they had a lot invested in it. It didn't feel like they were doing a lot of marketing for it. Then they announced that they were dropping the series all at once, which I never think is a good sign. And
seems like a red flag.
Yeah, seems like a red flag, right? So then I go ahead and watch it, and I fell in love with it. I absolutely adored it. You know, our own Jonathan Voico, it became his number one favorite.
Wow.
Absolute favorite MCU show on television. My wife absolutely loves it and adores it. Now, it was going to be a one-season show. And then they announced back in March, you know what? Due to all the huge response, we're going to do a season 2. A season 2 of Wonder Man. And there was great joy amongst the people.
Yeah.
Until today. Today, Variety is reporting exclusively that Wonder Man season 2 is not going to happen. They are not doing it. This is what Variety reported. Wonder Man has been canceled. At Disney Plus, Variety has learned exclusively. The news comes despite the fact that Disney announced a season 2 renewal for the show back in March, roughly 2 months after it debuted. According to sources, a writer's room for season 2 was never opened, and the show's writers have been released to pursue other projects. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II and Ben Kingsley starred in the series as Simon Williams and Trevor Slattery, respectively. The season 1 cast also included a whole bunch of other people. And by the way, got nominated for Best Series at the Emmys.
Wow.
Which, you know, you would think if they were going to cancel the series, maybe wait until after the Emmys. Now, let me address kind of a logistical thing here first. It's going to be interesting to see how this affects the Emmys. Because they announced a season 2, it qualified Wonder Man for Best Comedy Series. And it didn't have to be shuffled off into the limited series category. Now that they have announced that they are not continuing with the show, as was the original plan. Remember, everybody, the original plan wasn't for it to be a one-season show. It was going to be a limited series. Now that they've gone back to it being a limited series, Chris, I do wonder what position does that put the Emmys in? Are the Emmys going to go, well, it was as of the time of the nominations, so we're just going to leave everything as it is and it's going to be in that category? Or is it going to force the Emmys to go, well, now it's disqualified from that category because it's technically a limited series? And if they do that, is it too late to nominate it for Best Limited Series? So does this take Wonder Man out of the Emmy conversation altogether? That's a technical thing, and I'll let you address that in a second. But more on a more personal note, I'm kind of bummed out. Now, look.
Same.
narratively, yeah, the show was designed and canceled it was designed to be a one season show. It was meant to be a limited series. Also, the whole conceit of the show was kind of absolutely completed by the end of season 1. The whole show was about just following this guy, had a dream of being an actor, yet he lives in the MC world and the complications that involves and bringing Trevor back into it. And that entire story was brought to completion. You can't really do it again in a season 2. From my perspective, though, and the way I look at it, it's simply a matter of, I just loved these characters. And if you told me that a season 2 of Wonder Man was going to be nothing but Trevor and Yahya Abdul-Mateen, or Ben and Yahya, sitting in a cafe every episode talking about their favorite old movies, I would be there every week watching those episodes. So I get it. It was never the plan for this to have a season 2. Chris, the only thing I can think of is that the producer said, okay, everybody loves the show, we have to do a season 2. And then when they sat down and thought about it, they went, we can't figure out a story for this in season 2. And I don't know what happened. So I ask you, Chris, there are 3 questions here.
Yeah.
Number 1, how do you feel about this as a fan, about them canceling season 2? Number 2, why do you think they went out of their way to announce a season 2 and then change their minds again?
Yeah.
And then number 3, what, if any, impact do you think this has on the Emmy race? What do you think?
Yeah, so I was like you, where I'm honestly, my excitement is very little whenever new Disney Plus content is announced. I'm just not the biggest fan of what Marvel has done in that section. And so I had no care really much for Wonder Man. And when I saw it, like most people, I was very pleasantly surprised. And I loved what Daniel Craig was able to bring to this. And well, that to me, I think is the big key to this. We are in the weekend of Spider-Man. It is doing great numbers. It is doing great with reception with fans and critics, as far as I've seen right now. And Destin is a busy man. He is gonna move on to Naruto. I'm sure Feige wants to figure out the Shang-Chi thing, or in Sony's now definitely with not wanting to let go of Destin. I think this might have been just a tough choice of Feige going, where does our priority leave us in using Destin to move our universe forward? And if you do look at the viewership numbers, although Wonder Man, I believe in the article it said it did reach the top 9 out of the 10, it did quickly drop off after that week. And so I think this is a situation where it's great. It's nice that we got this for Disney Plus, but I think we can use Destin in better areas of our universe instead of this. Because again, just imagining where he has time for all this with Wonder Woman. Now, as far as the Emmy thing goes, John, yeah, that's something I'm going to be very curious on how they go back with that, because I wouldn't even know where to begin with something like that.
And you know, the again, a lot of people forget, and I'm glad you brought up Destin. A lot of people forget Shang-Chi 2 and Spider-Man Brand New Day director Destin Daniel Cretton is the showrunner and behind Wonder Man. And they don't even get to make a Shang-Chi 2 with him anytime soon, because he's got that, what's it called? Naruto? He's got to do.
Yeah, Naruto. That
Naruto?
anime movie, yeah.
The anime
Naruto,
movie that he wants to do. So he's a busy guy. So whether it's Destin stuff, whether it's story stuff, whether it's Emmy stuff, I don't know. But sad news today. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It was never intended to be an ongoing series. I get it. But I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of bummed out about it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The single season turned into there's going to be a season 2 is now canceled, and there's not going to be a season 2 of Wonder Man. Bummed out about it. Don't really care. Think it's fine. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, you know, it seems like every week we've got to talk about something to do with the Odyssey dominating the box office and kind of dominating the world here. And it just did something that even I was really not expecting. The Odyssey has just crossed $700 million at the box office in just 12 days. $700 million at the box office in just 12 days of being in the theater. Now, what does that mean? Let's put it into perspective. If you want to look this year at the fastest films to get to 700 million, look at the $3 billion films this year. There are $3 billion films so far: Super Mario, Galaxy, Toy
Wow.
Story 5, and Michael. Look how much faster the Odyssey has gotten to $700 million than any other. It literally got to $700 million twice as fast as Michael did. It got to
Wow.
$700 million in half the time that Michael did. It got to 700 million 9 days faster than Toy Story 5 did, which just recently crossed the $1 billion mark. And it got to $700 million 7 days faster, a full week earlier than the Super Mario Galaxy movie did. So when you sit back and look at all the movies that have hit $1 billion this year, and you compare them to how fast the Odyssey has gotten to $700 million in relation to them, this does not automatically mean that the Odyssey will also hit $1 billion. It doesn't automatically mean that the Odyssey is going to make more money than Michael or Toy Story 5 or Super Mario Brothers Galaxy automatically. But it is on, simply put, the best pace at the box office of any film that has come out this year. That's going to change it a little bit after this weekend when we talk about Spider-Man's numbers. But I mean, as of right now, on July 30th of 2026, this is by far, like, it's not even close. This thing is getting ready to lap the other $1 billion films at this point. It is crazy the number that it's got at this point. Now, obviously, Chris, we just last weekend, the Odyssey became the best second weekend in the history of cinema for films that opened under 100 to over $100 million. It eked out Top Gun Maverick. It eked out Wicked. Only 3 films in cinematic history that opened to over $100 million have had less than a 30% second weekend drop. We are now at a place where the Odyssey became the best one ever. Now we're talking about hitting 700 million. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it holds up on its third weekend with a Friendly Neighborhood Arachnid going around. But for now, did you have Odyssey like reaching the 700 million mark so far ahead of all the other $1 billion films this year? And what is it that has made it had this space? I mean, obviously there's the IMAX screens, but that's just a small percentage of the screens. What do you make of this?
I just think Christopher Nolan is a franchise. He is now the franchise. I feel like I look at Christopher Nolan and what he's done, and he's earned this spot and everything with the movies he's made. But I also look at the other directors that I think are just as prestige, like a Steven Spielberg, a Denis Villeneuve, and they're ones that have struggled to get that same audience attention to like go and show up the way Christopher Nolan is. And that part fascinates me. But with what he did with Oppenheimer and those numbers, I had no doubt something like this, a swords and sandals epic, would be something that people would go to in droves. Now the rate and the way it's getting there, that is surprising me with how fast. And in the article it states they haven't even released in China that, and they do expect a nice bump from that when that happens. So to me, it's the power of Christopher Nolan. There's something where his name does hold stature, and you see it in the trailers. Like, from the mind of this, Christopher Nolan's name pops up. People do lean forward and go, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I mean, again, I just can't get over these numbers, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like when you look again at the pace, because listen, I admit right up, I'll tell you straight up, I'll be the one to tell you, I have had my doubts that the Odyssey could hit $1 billion. I've had my doubts about it. And I think history has backed me up. I think only 2 R-rated films in history have ever made $1 billion. I think one was Joker and one was Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that's it. There's never been any other R-rated $1 billion films.
It's going to be one now.
Looking at these, it's going to be one now. China alone is going to make up about 150 million.
Yeah.
So it's already at $727.9 million after 12 days. Again, just so like insanely outpacing all the other billion-dollar films this year so far is absolutely nuts. But hey, you know, they must be fake numbers. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The Odyssey just crossed $700 million in 12 days, which beats the next closest film to hit 700 million by a full week, and did it in half the time of the Michael movie, which itself crossed the $1 billion mark. What do you attribute that to? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, Spider-Man Brand New Day officially opens today, but as many of you know, and as many of you probably attended last night, Amazon had special advanced fan screenings of Spider-Man in a number of theaters across the country. One screening of it in my theater. And I finally had a chance to go out and watch it last night. Chris, I know you already had a chance to see the film yourself. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. My expectations, I had some pretty big expectations, but not through the roof. Like, it's destined Daniel Cretton, the guy who directed Shang-Chi and Wonder Man. So, like, I was expecting good. I've loved the Spider-Man Tom Holland versions so far. I've loved all of them. I still think the three best Spider-Man movies of all time are Sony-produced ones, which is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, and Across the Spider-Verse. But I've really enjoyed the Tom Holland, John Watts directed Spider-Man movies. So I expected a good movie.
Yes.
For those of you who saw my out-of-theater reaction, I was not ready for how much I would love this movie. I still think those three Sony ones are still the best all time, but I think this one, Brand New Day, has become what I did not think it would become, my favorite of the Tom Holland era Spider-Man films. And I feel that way, and I'm not the only one who feels that way, by the way. I mean, you look over there, the critic rating has gone up to 91%. We now have verified, because of the screenings last night, we have some verified audience ratings that we're seeing are at 98%, which is just insane. And I understand those numbers because not only is this, to me, the most mature of the Spider-Man movies, delving into the most mature themes that we've had in any of the Spider-Man, any of the Tom Holland era Spider-Man movies. It was an excellent, look at loneliness, solitude. We look at different angles of the plight of the superhero that a lot of other movies won't stop and look at. And an ongoing development. You know what they're doing with Tom Holland's Spider-Man? They're doing what they did so great with Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. He's always evolving. I remember I was talking once with Robert Downey Jr. and I told him, I said, one of the most interesting things about the character, and I asked him if this was something he wanted to do and tried to do on purpose. I said, I feel like every time we see Tony, he's not the same Tony. Like, he's clearly still Tony Stark, but it feels like all of his experiences slightly change him along the way. And he said, that's exactly what I said to them. This is what Robert Downey Jr. said. He said, that's exactly what I said to the writers and to Kevin. You've got this man, this flawed, broken man who is going through these things that would put a lot of people in therapy for the rest of their lives. And it changes. And I got tones of that watching Tom Holland in this, is he's clearly been impacted and affected by the events that's gone on in the previous Spider-Man movies, putting him where he is. He's still clearly Peter, but he's evolving and he's changed. I'm not even talking about his spider DNA. I mean, he's evolving and he's changed. And I loved it. I thought the tightness of the narrative was impeccable. I kept waiting for the narrative gaps, and I kept waiting for those narrative loopholes and flaws and plot holes. I never found a single one. I thought the tightness of the narrative was flawless. I'm not saying it's a flawless movie, but I thought the tightness of the narrative was flawless. And you know what, Chris? I come out of a lot of movies, even movies that I really enjoy and really love, and I often think sometimes they're not edited down enough. Like, I'll often come out of films I really like and say, oh, I loved it, but it could have handled being trimmed, cut about 10 minutes out, 15 minutes out, would have been a little leaner, meaner, tighter. This is a long movie, and I thought the pacing was fantastic. I love
Hmm.
the pacing. I never
I
once
agree.
felt like it dragged or lulled. I always thought every scene had a specific narrative purpose and that it had cadence to it, and then it moved on to the next thing. I never felt the length of the movie at all, so I was absolutely thrilled with that. I thought, oh my God, I couldn't have been happier with Hulk. Could
Oh
not have
yeah.
been happier with
Woo!
Hulk. And I said this to Chris
Yeah.
off screen before we started the show. But what I did not have on my bingo card going into Spider-Man Brand New Day was wanting more MJ and Frank together on screen. I
Yeah.
never had that on my bingo card. And yet I came out, and I remember saying to my wife, if they just did a Disney Plus one shot of Punisher and MJ on an adventure, I don't know, going to Disney World in Orlando, I'd totally watch it. I would totally watch.
Mhm.
I love them. I thought Sadie Sink was wonderful in the film. And to me, Chris, I don't know, I haven't talked about this, but to me,
Mhm.
Jacob Bartolone as Ned is the unsung
Mm.
treasure of these Spider-Man movies. He just
Yeah.
brings such a different element and a different dimension to it, and a new layer. And I loved it. And there's a couple of scenes between Peter and Ned that I just actually, honestly, one of them was is my favorite scene of the movie. I thought the action was top notch, and it never felt like it rushed to its finish like a lot of even really good movies do.
Mhm.
I'm not saying this is the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time, guys. What I am saying is, in my opinion, this is the best Marvel era Spider-Man movie, and I just loved it. Anyway, Chris, you saw the film before I did.
Yeah.
What did you think about Spider-Man Brand New Day?
Yeah, Spider-Man is like my favorite hero of all time. With that, I also hold it to a little higher standard, and I get picky. So Tom Holland's previous trilogy, I wasn't always as high on as other people. I liked them, and I enjoyed what they did, but I did always walk out of his movies feeling like there's just something missing. There's something that I need to be part of there, and don't know what it is. Walking out of this one, I feel Destin found it. I love the new visual style he gave Tom Holland Spider-Man, the color palette of the movie,
Oh,
um, it's so good. The swinging, the dynamic action sequences. Like, I mean, that
can
fight
I
scene
cut
with
you
the
off for a
hand. Yeah.
second? Because
Go
I'm
ahead. Yeah.
so glad you were smart enough to mention something that I failed to mention. There's been some really good city swinging scenes in the other
Mhm.
Spider-Man movies. Nothing felt as visceral as the swinging through the city.
Mhm.
You know where it totally got its inspiration from? I felt like I was watching the PlayStation Spider-Man game.
Insomniac Spider-Man. Yeah.
It draws, it doesn't just show you Spider-Man swinging, it made you feel like you were swinging through the city. And a couple of the shots were directly taken from that Insomniac
Yep.
first Spider-Man game too. Anyway, I sorry I'm interrupted. I'm
No,
just
you're
glad
good.
you were smart enough to bring that up when I wasn't.
No. Anytime, Joe. Go ahead. And with that as well, it's not just the visual for like eye candy for as a Spider-Man fan. Destin and what he's done great in all his projects, whether Shang-Chi, Wonder Man, it's find the emotional human element in the characters and making that the basis of the film. And the way he's mirrored like Frank's story, Bruce Banner, Sadie Sink's character, all those thematically come together with isolation, putting yourself alone, focusing in too hard on like I really enjoyed that part of the story. Frank and Spidey's dynamic is probably my favorite relationship as
So
Spider-Man
good.
has had. They're good banter, and they didn't sacrifice Frank's morals and who he is. Like he's a little bit more lighthearted than we're used to, but it worked up next to Spider-Man. You could tell that like Spider-Man has that effect on people where it's like, an annoying kid, but he's making me smile. So I really like that they did that with them. And again, don't want to say too much, but there's a rooftop scene with Spider-Man and MJ that just had me flabbergasted in
Oh,
some of
so
the
good.
best ways. I love the way they handled that. And, for all the flack I give the previous trilogy, this movie is very respectable to the John Watts films and builds off those and takes the best elements of that. And I really like that. I think if I had only some negatives to say about it, is I think it teeters the line of feeling overbloated. There's a lot of moving pieces to it. So to me, it was a little of that. There was a pool sequence, I'll just say that that I felt, while funny, went on a little too long, and it felt very random to me. Maybe you know what I'm talking about, John.
I don't know,
And
man. I love that scene. I'm not gonna
see,
lie. I love
hey,
that
you're
scene. I
not
thought it was
alone. Maybe
great.
you're not alone. But for me, I was like, this is so okay. But other than that, man, I really dug it. I was so happy with when it ended. Just had a big smile on my face, and I hope Sony keeps Destin around. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel this is a weird thing to say about a film on its fourth chapter.
Hmm.
I feel like they're just getting started. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like this movie now can be the beginning. You know what I
It's a
mean? Like
brand new day.
all it's a brand new day. I feel like it's time to just start fresh. This is a brand new day for it. This is the first time I've ever kind of felt like the title meant anything, because it certainly doesn't feel like much in the movie itself, but
Hmm.
it works so well for me. I feel like they're just getting started. And yeah, guys, I couldn't be happier with it. I was really thrilled. I think it's the best of the Tom Holland Spider-Man ones. I think, oh, and by the way, I don't know if you saw this, Chris,
Mm.
but word of mouth has been so good, and people coming out of those advanced fan screenings last night, everybody's, including I found out from Jonathan Voico, who tried to log on just to double check the showtime of a movie he's going to, and AMC wouldn't let people into the site. You
Oh
literally had to
man.
get into a queue to get onto the site.
Wow.
And that probably means that people hearing the word of mouth and their friends talking about it, I think everybody was kind of rushing today to try to go
Get
and
their
pick up some
tickets.
tickets for Spider-Man
Yeah.
this weekend. And man, I don't know. I've been saying 300 million opening weekend
It's looking like it
is
might be stronger.
possible, but unlikely. Like I've been saying, yeah,
Hmm.
sure, it's possible, but it's really unlikely. I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably still going to come in around the 200 to 250 million dollar range, but I mean, I'm not going to bet against anything at this point.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yeah.
I'm not betting against anything. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this? Spider-Man Brand New Day is now out there. Some of you, a bunch of you guys watching probably were lucky enough to get into one of those fan screenings last night. And if you weren't, it's opening publicly today. If you saw it, what did you think about the movie? Whatever you guys thought, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we thought it's been almost a week since we played ourselves a game of What's More Likely. So we're going to do that right now. Here's how What's More Likely works. We jumped on the channel a little bit earlier, and we asked a bunch of you guys to send in some What's More Likely scenarios. We picked out a few of them. We've got them queued up here, and now Chris and I are going to take them and tell you which one of your scenarios is more likely. And I'll kick things off here today. So we're going to start off our first What's More Likely with a scenario from JRLDB, who writes, what's more likely, Obsession or The Invite gets a Best Picture nomination? What's more likely, The Invite or the, Obsession getting a Best Picture nomination? All right, you are talking about two of my favorite films of the year so far. The Invite is my number 2 favorite. Obsession is probably either number 4 or 5. I love both these movies. And here's an interesting thing. Gold Derby, which is the award season tracker, right now, they technically have both The Invite and The Odyssey probably getting a Best Picture nomination. Because remember, there are 10 nominees for Best Picture. They have The Invite at number 9 and Obsession at number 10. So even the awards trackers are saying there's a very good chance that both of them get nominated. I will say that the more likely one, and again, I think both could be nominated, but if it was only going to be one, I think it's more likely that The Invite does. Number one, because as much as I love Obsession, I think The Invite is just a tiny bit better. But on top of that, it's more a filmmaker's kind of movie. You know what I mean? And so I think it's the one that would probably appeal to the Academy a little bit more. Again, I think both will get nominated. But if it was only going to be one, Chris, I would say it's more likely that The Invite gets nominated. What's more likely to get nominated, Obsession or Invite? What do you think?
I'd have to echo a lot of your thoughts. Well, I especially also because horror seems to have a bigger hurdle sometimes with the Oscars, or they don't have much of a. Oh, sorry, John. Let me turn on my fan here. You probably know this. Camera overheats. Sorry
I
about
I
that.
do the exact same thing, man.
Forgot to turn it on. So, anyways, but yeah, and it does seem like more of filmmakers, and there is things about the invite that I think are probably more appreciative on the critic side. But I'd love it if both get there. But I'm going with you on the invite.
All right. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? And Chris, will go to you on this. When our user Super Smart 1256 writes in this scenario, what's more likely, Chris? Moana 3 or Zootopia 3 comes out first?
I am going Zootopia 3. I think especially with the live action movie maybe not performing as well as they'd like, the critical reception, and although I know that's separate from the animated stuff, it is still on the brand of Moana. And I feel Disney just had really good success with Zootopia 2. I think was it 1.4 or 1.7 billion? It was a crazy number. I think they want to capitalize on that first over Moana.
You know what? I don't disagree with anything you just said, but I'm going to go with Moana. And the only
Mm,
reason I'm going to say Moana 3 is because thanks to Dwayne Johnson's interview, we know they're already writing the script. Like
mm.
they're already in development of Moana 3. And I listen, I think if they had to say which one, if we could only pick one, do we do Moana 3 or Zootopia 3? I think they do Zootopia 3. That's the more guaranteed hit. But I mean, the last Moana movie made over $1 billion. The next one will do much better than the live action travesty did. So I'm going to say Moana 3 only because we already know they're actually developing it. Whereas I haven't heard any official word about whether there's going to be a Zootopia 3, but there hasn't been any
Yeah.
official word that it's already in development or not. So my guess is going to be Moana 3 will be the next one to come out. We'll find out. All right. Let's move on to the next scenario, shall we? And this next one gets sent into us from Sam Tarter, who writes, what's more likely? We get Spider-Man 5 or Shang-Chi 2 first? We get Spider-Man 5 or Shang-Chi 2 first. Well, considering, both Simu Liu, who plays Shang-Chi, and Destin Daniel Cretton, who of course directed Shang-Chi, have come out and said that they're already developing Shang-Chi 2. I've got to say, and the fact that Spider-Man 4 had to wait a number of years. What did we wait,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years between
Yeah.
Spider-Man films?
Mhm.
So because of that, number one, I do want Shang-Chi 2 more than I want Spider-Man 5. But aside from that, like everything we're hearing from them, and the fact that Shang-Chi is featured, of course, in the Doomsday trailer, it's true. Destin's got another project lined up, but that's also going to hinder Spider-Man 5 because I
Yeah.
agree with Chris that I think they're going to go back to Destin for the next Spider-Man movie as well. I'm going to guess that it is more likely that we get Spider-Man 2 or Shang-Chi 2 before we get Spider-Man 5. Chris, what's more likely?
I'm going Spider-Man 5.
Ah,
I really would like Shang-Chi 2 and I've been waiting for it, but I feel like we even heard they were pondering ideas like I think the year that Shang-Chi came out and the success it was, right? I just think that Feige has a lot of moving pieces, and we'll see at D23. Maybe he's got a surprise for us, right? But I mean, with Ghost Rider and all that coming out, it feels like there's other things that maybe Feige would rather put forward in this. So I'm going Spider-Man 5.
all right. With that down, let's get on to the next scenario here, shall we? And this next what if scenario, or what's more likely scenario, I should say, gets sent to us from Rodriguez, who writes, what's more likely? Doomsday gets a better critical reception, Chris, or Dune 3? What's more likely? Doomsday gets the better critical reception or Dune 3? Which one is it, Chris?
Oh, I mean, I feel like this is an easy one. It's going to be at Dune 3. I think, maybe early days of Marvel, even the most, enjoyable film, I feel got like praise, high reviews. I think those days are gone for Marvel. Now they're looked under such a high microscope and tensions are higher. And I think there is a lot of expectations set with Doomsday, with what they're setting up. And just right now, with looking at what Denny has done with 1 and 2. And what I've seen from trailers of 3, I don't see how that one is a miss. So I'm just gonna go Dune 3 is more likely to be get the better critical reception.
All right. So I'm going to say this. So we just talked about Spider-Man, right?
Yes.
91% critic review. 91.
Yeah.
So the critics like it.
Uh-huh.
I thought the same way you did at first. At first, I'm like, well, obviously it's going to be Dune 3, right? But
Okay.
look at these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the critic scores for Avengers and Dune. Avengers, its lowest one was 76%, which is Avengers Age of Ultron, which, by the way, is a movie I kind of like more and more every time I watch it. But you got Avengers 91%, Avengers Infinity War 85%, Avengers Endgame 94%. Dune 1, 83%, Dune 2, 92%. Generally speaking, first of all, the critics love the Avengers movies. I mean, you just look at these numbers.
They do.
Critics love the Avengers movies. They also love the Dune movies. But again, when you look at these numbers compared, they are comparable. These are comparable numbers, right? Like they're kind of right there. Now, that being said, so I don't think it's as easy to call as you might think, Chris, but I am ultimately going to agree with you. I am going to agree that I think at the end of the day, especially coming off the momentum of Dune 2, I think Dune 3 will be the better film. I think it'll be the better critically rated film because I think it'll be a better film. But I don't think the gap is going to be as big as maybe I might initially think and what some people might think. So I'm going to go on that one. All right. We'll finish this off here now, going over to Chris for our final What's More Likely scenario, as we take one from Elliot Knight, who writes, speaking of Dune 3, Timothée Chalamet Oscar nomination for Dune Part 3 or Tom Holland Oscar nomination for The Odyssey? What's more likely, Chris?
Man, it's tough because I've seen one performance and I haven't seen the other one.
Yeah.
And I'm going off track records, but I'm just gonna go. I think Tom Holland will definitely be getting. I think there is a lot of heart and strong that comes from Tom Holland. It's probably his best performance, even after Spider-Man: Brand New Day. I think what he did in The Odyssey is still his best performance. So with that, I'm gonna go that just because it's a performance I've seen.
All right, I'm gonna go different. I went with you on the Dune thing. I'm gonna go different on you on this. But you're right. I face the same struggle you do. We've seen one of the performances. We haven't seen the other one, although we have seen Timothée Chalamet playing Paul Atreides. I think Timothy getting a best. First of all, I thought Timothy not only should have been nominated, I thought he should have won for Best Actor the year of Dune 2. We know what we're going to get from him. He just got nominated last year as well, and he's going to deliver something incredibly special with Dune 3, no doubt. I very much like Tom Holland in The Odyssey. I don't think it was an Oscar-worthy performance.
Wow.
I thought it was, again, there's only 5 spots for nominees, right? There's going to be lots of great performances that don't get nominated. And I thought Tom Holland was very good in The Odyssey. Very, very much. I liked him very, very much. But do I look at him in The Odyssey and do I see a Best Supporting Actor nomination? I don't. Whereas with Timothée Chalamet, I think it's an assumption, but I think it's a relatively safe assumption to think he's going to deliver because that's just what Timothée Chalamet does. Yeah. And I just think as much as I really love and respect Tom Holland as an actor, I think Timothée Chalamet is on a level above that. So even though I haven't seen it yet, and Chris, I might change my mind once we've seen Dune 3, granted, but I think Tom Holland Timothée Chalamet will deliver an Oscar performance.
That's fair, yeah.
Whereas I didn't quite think Tom Holland's as good as it was. I don't think it's an Oscar performance. So that's how I'll go on that. And all right, guys, that will wrap up today's session of What's More Likely. Thank you to all of you guys who sent in those scenarios for us to address. Keep your eyes open on the YouTube community tab there for the next time we put out a call for entries, and maybe you'll see your scenarios on the next round of What's More Likely. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, a little bit earlier in the episode today, we talked about the fact that now The Odyssey has become the fastest film of the year to hit 700 million. blisteringly fast, like completely destroying the $3 billion films that we've had this year in Mario, Michael, and Toy Story. In some cases, getting to 700 million twice as fast as one of those other $1 billion films. And the success of it is incredible. And yet, we live in a world where the crying and the tears, and of course the conspiracy theories about the Odyssey abound. And they're rather infuriating, but they are there because, you know, when people like a movie that I don't like, I say, hey man, I'm glad everybody loves it. Wasn't for me. You know, it didn't work for me. This is why it didn't work for me, but hey, I'm glad everybody else liked it. Instead of taking that approach, a lot of people who have agendas, let's just be clear here, have clear agendas, create conspiracy theories. When the facts don't align with your narrative, say the facts are corrupt. Where have we seen that before? Anyway, when the facts don't align with your narrative, make up something to suggest that the facts themselves are corrupt. Now, earlier today, an absolutely fabulous guy, Dan Merle, on his channel put out.
I want to see that video.
It's fantastic. It's really fantastic. But he put out an editorial today touching on a lot of the things I've talked about on my channel, but he wove together in one cohesive editorial piece that is just beautifully done. I actually wrote to Dan this morning, say, dude, this editorial views are so beautifully laid out. Again, he raises many of the points I've raised before, but it's just the way he laid it all out it's succinct, it's bulletproof. It's just a wonderful, and I highly encourage everybody to go and take a look at the editorial that Dan did today on debunking the Odyssey conspiracy theories. But I wanted to go over some of the ones that he talked about today and talk about some of the points he raised, the points I've raised about it historically on the channel. And, you know, we'll go from there. And by the way, I'm not going to touch on every point that Dan talked about in his. I'm just going to refer to 5 of the points that he's made that I think are the most relevant here.
Nice.
So let's take a look here, shall we? Debunking the Odyssey hate conspiracies. The first one we're going to talk about here is fake audience scores, right? The conspiracy theory is the Odyssey audience scores, which is of course through the roof. The Odyssey audience scores are through the roof. So since that doesn't fit your narrative, that you say that the Odyssey is awful and nobody likes it, therefore this one came in, and this is one of the first things that Dan talked about on his channel, was this thing. You've all seen this, right? I've had people on my own channel write in this bullshit. But their thing is this Reddit post that made its rounds amongst everybody who doesn't have enough brain cells to actually look into it themselves. But here it was. Rotten Tomatoes says the Odyssey has a 97% audience score. The raw data proves it's actually 56. You're a moron if you believe that. This isn't about whether you like the movie or... By the way, let me throw this out here. Nothing about what Dan says in his editorial or what I have ever said, it takes away from the fact that you may have in good faith just gone and watched the Odyssey and not liked it. Nothing wrong with that. It's movies. They're all subjective. Just because a bunch of people like it doesn't mean you will or I will. There is nothing wrong with you if you just simply didn't like the Odyssey. Nothing wrong with that at all. Let me be extremely clear about that. But if you believe nonsense like this, you're either A, stupid, or you're B, disingenuous. Because as Dan, and I said this, I addressed this on my show on a Q&A part of the show when somebody asked about it, and I pointed out, guys, they came to that number by eliminating all the verified votes. And Dan does a great job on his editorial pointing that out as well. He just took more time to do it. When you go through what the process was to get to the real audience score, here's what they basically did. They took all the votes and they took out the verified votes. What that means is their process of coming up to their number was to take everybody who actually saw the movie and throw out their votes.
Jeez.
And what they were left with when you throw out all the votes of the people who verified saw the movie, and you're only left with votes from people that you have no idea if they saw the movie or not, you're left with a 56%. Brilliant. Wow. That is so smart. Take all the people that we know saw the movie and throw their votes out. That's a genius. It is so stupid. And again, the premise of it, it's so obvious that if you believe this or say you believe it, you are either an actual legitimate certified moron or you're purely disingenuous. Because obviously the way you come to the real audience score is not by throwing out the votes of the people that you know for certain actually saw the movie. That is ridiculous. It's complete idiocy. And I'm glad that Dan started with that one, as I've talked about on the show myself before. The second one that Dan goes into, and again, I'm not going into all the points that Dan brought up in his editorial, which once again, I encourage everybody to go and check out, is that we've all heard this one. The studio is buying all the tickets. All right. So at first, they tried to say that the box office numbers were lies. When that didn't hold up, they switched their theory to, okay, well, maybe the box office numbers aren't lies, but it's the studios buying the tickets is their big thing. And of course, that is propelled by fake bullshit, like pictures like this, right? Mm-hmm. Does this look, this is a guy who posts, I'm in the Odyssey screening that said was sold out, and yet here I am and nobody's here. First of all, you notice all the lights in the theater are on? You notice that? Like, this is a middle of the afternoon. This isn't about before a screening. Anyway, as Dan accurately points out in his editorial, this was the same game plan that the haters of Captain Marvel used back when Captain Marvel came out. Do you remember this? Captain Marvel came out and all the chuds were like, oh, no one's going to see it. And when it was making $1 billion, said, oh, the studio faked it. They bought their tickets. And then a picture much like this one came out that all the Captain Marvel haters circulated of a guy saying, hey, I came to my Captain Marvel screening that said it was almost full and nobody's here. Well, Dan pointed out and did a piece on this back in the day when it happened and said, yeah, I did some research. The guy who posted that picture is this guy, and he named the guy. He said for the past 6 months, this guy has been posting about how Captain Marvel is going to be nothing but a woke piece of trash. Nobody should go see it, blah, blah. And yet we are to believe that that guy went to opening night of Captain Marvel. And again, no proof at all that he was actually in a Captain Marvel screening. So that got debunked. But here they are. They're so desperate that they're falling back to the old playbook. Now, as a part of this, Dan went one step further because Dan brings receipts.
Yes.
Dan, like my show, has a lot of people who work in movie theaters watch his channel, much like we do. And so Dan literally heard from 40 different employees of movie theaters from across multiple states and multiple countries. And he simply asked them this: positively or negatively, have you seen in your theaters any discrepancy between the number of tickets your system say is sold and how many people actually showed up? To which all of them replied, no, there have been no discrepancies, positively or negatively, between what our system says sold tickets and the actual number of people who showed up. This is just anecdotal, Chris. But again, I was at a screening of Spider-Man last night. It was only playing in one theater because it was the special Amazon fan screening. But that fucking IMAX screen that was across the hall for the Odyssey was packed. It was absolutely packed. Again,
on a Wednesday.
Again, this is just a pathetic let's go back to this old thing we tried with Captain Marvel that was already debunked, and let's try it again. And by the way, Dan also noted that the writing on the screen was Croatian. So he checked the movie theater that was. And guess what? That theater's freaking sold out. And so, again, he went back, double-checked the facts, heard from the actual people that work in movie theaters, and like, no, either positively or negatively, there's no discrepancy between the number of tickets being sold. All right, here's another one. Now, I have not addressed this one. This is one that Dan brought up that I have not addressed before, and I thought this was a really good one.
Okay.
Because you've been seeing this one floating around a little bit, saying the Rotten Tomatoes audience score is completely different than every other audience score. Therefore, it's wrong. As a matter of fact, one of the things that they point out is that how can the Rotten Tomatoes audience score be 97%, yet Letterboxd is only 4.4? Huh? Well, brain surgeon, says Dan, I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that Letterboxd is out of 5.
Yeah.
It got 4.4 out of 5. As a matter of fact, Dan brings this up. He said, look, if you want to actually convert them to the same metric, Rotten Tomatoes 97%, when you round it down from its point value, is a 9.6 out of 10. IMDb is 8.5, which is only 1.1 off of what Rotten Tomatoes is. Letterboxd, when you convert it from being out of 5 to being out of 10, ends up being an 8.8, which is only 0.8 off of what the Rotten Tomatoes one is. The one outlier was the Metacritic audience score. But as Dan pointed out, because it is out of 10, as Dan pointed out in the Metacritic audience score, number one, they're not verified votes. You have no idea knowing if any of the people who went over there to register a vote on Metacritic, remember, we're talking about audience scores, not the critics, if they even saw the movie or not. And then Dan pointed this out. If you want to look at the number of people who went on and registered a positive vote, that was either 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, 30% of them, Dan says, it was their first time ever casting a vote. That's suspicious.
Yeah.
But 50% more people who registered a 0 or 1 out of 10 were also their first time ever going to Metacritic to register a vote. So one was 30% for people going to register a 9 or a 10. That was their first time registering a vote. But the people who went there to register a 0 or a 1, and it was their first time going to register a vote, was 45%. So again, 50% higher than the ones who registered a 9 or 10. So you have to take the Metacritic one with it. But even the other ones like Letterboxd and IMDb, which are also not verified, are incredibly close to the Rotten Tomatoes score, with one single outlier being Metacritic, which again had a whole bunch of people that had never voted on Metacritic before, but went over there to vote on it to give it a 0 or 1. So that's another thing that Dan pointed out. I thought that was a really interesting one that he brought up there. All right. Here's another one that I've never addressed, but that Dan brought up, but I see it around all the time. Whole bunch of people saying the Odyssey is an insult to Greek people. It's an insult to Greece, and Greek people hate it. It's offensive to the Greeks. Okay. All right. Let's follow that, shall we? Dan decided to go to the Greek version of Rotten Tomatoes. Greece doesn't have their own Rotten Tomatoes, but they have this thing called PEC, which is basically Greek in Greece film critics. And he went there and said, what do the Greek film critics, Chris, these people are supposed to be offended by the Odyssey. What did these Greek film critics have to say? Well, this is what Dan found. Dan found that out of the 26 reviews on PEC, all film critics in Greece, 19 of the reviews out of the 26 were positive, 4 were mixed, and only 3 were negative. This is the Greek film critics. The people who are supposed to be totally put off and offended. by it. And then Dan went on to read a bunch of their reviews saying, and one of the reasons that the Greek reviewers loved it so much is because how true it was to the meaning and the message of the Homeric text. How well it communicated the actual morals of the story and the meaning of the Odyssey, how faithfully the Greek film critics said it actually translated it to a modern age and a modern audience. Then you think, well, that's just the film critics. Well, here's the thing, Dan also pointed out. The Prime Minister of Greece actually called Christopher Nolan. Says this, the Prime Minister thanked Christopher Nolan for the film's contribution to strengthening international interest in ancient Greek civilization, adding that such production bridges Greece's rich cultural heritage with contemporary creative art. Now, none of that is to say that there are not people of Greek heritage who maybe didn't take issue with the Odyssey. Obviously there are, 100%, and I don't besmirch any of them. But the narrative that's been artificially generating, purporting that all of Greek civilization and culture hates this movie and are offended by it, no, they didn't. Not on a large scale, they didn't. As a matter of fact, the clear majority of them do. And by the way, Chris, Dan then pointed out, well, what about regular Greece people? More people went to go see the Odyssey in its first 4 days than any film in 20 years in Greece.
Yeah, I saw. I was looking at an article. It broke records.
I love something Dan said. He said, man, for a bunch of people being offended, they sure are paying a lot of money to go and be offended. So again, are there some people out there who of Greek heritage didn't like it? Absolutely, 100%. Is the narrative that on whole, the Greek people are offended by this movie? No, it's absolute bullcrap. Absolute bullcrap. But here's a big one that I have addressed before. And I'm glad Dan did as well. Dan just did a better job of addressing it than I did. And that is Christopher Nolan only cast Elliot Page and Lupita Nyong'o just so he could meet the Oscar eligibility diversity rules in order to be eligible to win an Oscar. You've seen it, guys. You've seen this narrative spread around. You've seen everybody. It's been in my own comment section. You've seen it wherever you've gone. Yeah, Chris Nolan only put Black Lady in there so he could meet the Oscar eligibility rules so he could win an Oscar. That's the only reason he did it. That's it. That's the only reason he did it. Which again, you're an idiot. Congratulations. You're completely illiterate moron. You're just an illiterate moron. And I say illiterate because clearly you can't read. Because if you could read, that means you would have gone and looked at the eligibility requirements before saying something so stupid. You wouldn't be so dumb as to talk about the eligibility requirements if you've never read them, right? Like you wouldn't be that dumb. So I can only assume then you can't read. So you're just relying on what other chuds are telling you. Here's the reality of that. I've talked about this so many times. The diversity eligibility rules, this is the fact, are so laughably weak. I've said this 100 times over the years, are so laughably weak that you would literally have to try to not meet the eligibility rules and you would still probably fail. If you tried your hardest to not meet the eligibility rules, 50% of the time you'd probably still meet them. As a matter of fact, Clayton Davis of Variety wrote, here's the thing. If you apply the test, take all 98 winners of Best Picture and ask which one's standards would have knocked it off the ballot. Which one of the 98 Best Film winners would not have been eligible to win under the current eligibility rules? The answer, says Clayton Davis, 0. 0. If you read the eligibility rules, and I've gone over these many times, you don't have to have a single minority in your movie at all. Not one. You could have a Filipino woman who's head of a department at the distribution company. Congratulations, you've met one of the eligibility rules. You don't have to have a single minority in your movie, not one, to be eligible to win the Oscar. So just don't talk and slam the eligibility rules when you haven't had the common sense to even read or understand them, you moron. It's infuriating when I see
Oh,
that.
yes.
It's just like talking about these rules that you have no understanding of how they work because they're so laughably easy that you wouldn't be able to fail to meet the requirements even if you tried. Go read them. Go read them and see just how ridiculous the rules, which begs the question, Chris, why these rules even exist. Because they don't need anybody to do anything to meet them. But anyway, there's that. So again, Dan went into more on his brilliant editorial, but just for the 5 that I think are most relevant here, the fake scores completely debunked. The studio is buying the tickets completely debunked. RT scores versus other audience scores, they actually line up when you don't have them being out of 5, except for one outlier. The Odyssey is an insult to Greeks people. Well, maybe to a couple, but the majority of them, clearly it isn't. And they only cast certain people for Oscar eligibility. Complete nonsense and completely debunked. Because Chris, Christopher Nolan's last film, what was it called again? Oppenheimer?
Oppenheimer?
Yeah. How many leads were minorities in that film?
I don't think
how many people were even in the secondary roles that were minorities in that film? Oh, none. And guess what? It won Best Picture. This isn't rocket science, guys. It's not rocket. Anyway, Chris, you've seen all the arguments. You've heard all the arguments. What do you make of the breakdown here that Dan gave us?
Yeah, so I saw Dan's video popped up, and I remember thinking, okay, I got to sit down and watch that because I agree. Like Dan, he's very articulate. I really admire his takes and points. And to me, John, more of this is kind of one of my least favorite parts of this job. This weird, I don't know, cult group that grows every year picks a movie to be mad at. I hate it. It's the worst thing about it that now every movie somehow has a political angle to it, and it is trying. You have to pick a side when they announce this movie and who's cast. All right, you with it or you against it, and then you're stuck to it. And I don't understand why they treat movies that way. Why they feel the need. Well, no, I do understand. It's clicks. They get the most idiotic, awful people in the world that love to just see other people fail, and they're clicking on that and they found it. I think half the time they don't even mean what they preach, if I'm being honest with you.
I agree. Yeah.
They do not. And I miss the times where we can get on because there are people, I bet, that don't like Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey for actual valid reasons. They
Perfect,
maybe didn't
legitimate reasons. Absolutely.
And now those people who will speak out and say I didn't like it will be kind of bumped in with them because we just don't have that middle ground to have discussion anymore. We don't have that of like, I didn't like the way the story flowed, or I felt like maybe she wasn't the right person to be cast because of the acting ability and not because of the color of their skin, right? I miss that in movie culture, and it makes me feel terrible for the young mind that like me one day clicked on a Collider or an AMC movie talk, your blog, and I was like, wow, look at his thoughts. There's somebody unfortunately clicking on those videos at a young age and now thinking this is the way I need to look and analyze movies. And that breaks my heart because that's not the way you should be looking and analyzing movies. I love people like Dan and like you who bring this to the attention and keep fighting it on. It's just unfortunate. We're talking to brick walls. We're talking to people that'll never change their minds no matter what we say. And I just hate that.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, especially because here's the thing. I'm going to take a big Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute classic sci-fi film, beloved by cinephiles. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of Blade Runner. And you know what? It doesn't make me feel any less secure in my opinion that I didn't like it because a bunch of other people did. And it's so sad that the mental weakness in people that feel threatened when other people don't agree with their opinion about a movie, about just the artistic merits of a movie, that you have to then make up all this nonsense and you have to make up all this bullshit to try to make yourself feel better about the fact that you don't like what's going on for reasons that have nothing to do with the movie. And again, I said it 10 times already. I'll say it an 11th. There is nothing wrong if you went in good faith and just watched the Odyssey, hoping to see a good movie, and it didn't work for you. I didn't like Blade Runner. I don't like the original Halloween. I wasn't almost everybody I know, Chris, liked the new He-Man movie. I didn't.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, everybody else on my show did too. I didn't. But guess what? I don't have to make up an excuse for why you liked it and I didn't. I just go, I'm glad you liked it. I wish I did too. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're not trying to lump in people who make up these fake excuses with people who just legitimately didn't like the movie.
No, yeah.
That's totally fair. It's a really sad state of affairs. But again, you know, hate gets clicks. So
yeah, unfortunately.
All right, guys, with that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we are going to bid good afternoon to 3C Films. Chris Parker. Chris, always great to see you, my friend. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yep, next Thursday, same time. Thank you so much for having me on, guys.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon. All right, guys. With that all said, let's now move over and start taking your live comments and questions. Now, before we do, I'm going to let you guys know that I am now turning off the super chats because I should have turned them off like 20 minutes ago. But I am doing it now. So the super chats are now officially waiting for it to process. They're now officially off. So I'm going to get over now and start taking your live comments and questions. So let me get this all lined up here so we can get started. Hopefully I've got my super chat button ready, and I don't. So let me get it set up here because that's something I forgot to do before we started the show. And now we do. All right. We're starting things off here with Josh Molinari, who writes, AMC's website currently has a queue 30 minutes just to get Spider-Man tickets. At what point do we accept 300 million? My theater is only showing 4 movies. It typically shows 10 through 12. Yeah, listen, man, I have been holding fast. Said, look, it's probably going to come in at that 200, 250, which is remarkable. It's one of the biggest openings of all time. And I've said 300 is possible. It is possible, but I think very unlikely. I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. Box Office Pro adjusted their projections yesterday up. The word of mouth coming out of the screenings last night has AMC theaters getting inundated with ticket requests. I don't know, man. I might have to walk it back and say, yep, I guess maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to continue to expect the $250 million range. But yeah, man, it is looking more and more possible that maybe 300 isn't out of the question. We'll find out here, guys. All right. Next up, we've got CR who writes, Crenton's success with Spider-Man and Shang-Chi has me very excited for not Naruto. If anyone can make a blockbuster ninja epic with superpowers, it's him. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of... Listen, I'm not going to lie, though. I'm not going to lie. I wish that movie would disappear. Don't get me wrong. I'm super happy for those of you who are excited about it, that you get to get that movie. I'm very, very happy for you. Super happy for you. But I'm not going to lie. My own greedy thing is I want Shang-Chi too. So I kind of wish that maybe he'll pass that project on to somebody else and then he'll turn his attention to Shang-Chi too. Again, that's just my own selfishness. But, it is what it is. Just being honest with you guys. All right, next up. Sonner writes, the other mommy trailer is creepy stuff. The under the table scene is freaky. Seen it? Dude, we talked about it at CinemaCon back in April. We saw the other mommy with Jessica Chastain, who I adore. I adore Jessica Chastain. I fell in love with her in The Help. Anyway, we saw it at CinemaCon in April and we raved about it. It is creepy AF, man. It is one of the better horror trailers. Now, I don't know if the movie's going to live up to it or not. I simply don't know, but holy crap. Holy crap. It looks creepy. It's funny. I thought I was going to see it this week, because I got invited to a screening of it this week. And you guys know I don't accept any press screenings, but this wasn't a press screening. It was just an early fan gauge screening, and I got invited to it. right? Just a fan thing, because I do not accept press stuff. And I thought I was going to go see it tomorrow. But then when I read through the fine print, it said, you will be turned away if you are part of the entertainment industry. And even just being a Joe Nobody loser, irrelevant guy like me who does a YouTube show, I do count, I guess, as working in the entertainment industry. So I reached out to them. I said, hey, I'm already confirmed on the invite list to come and see this, but just so you know, I am a movie YouTuber. Is that okay? And they said, oh, no. You're not allowed to come to this, but we'd love to put you on the list for the press screening. And I said, well, I don't accept press screening stuff. So there was that. Anyway, all that is to say, I was really excited to maybe see it tomorrow, but I cannot see it tomorrow now. But I'm very much looking forward to Other Mommy Man. It looks really good. It looks really good. So here's hoping it lives up to the trailer. I don't know that it will, but I hope that it does. All right, next up. Luke writes, howdy, John. Do you have any thoughts on the Bring Back the Monsters piece from the Hollywood Reporter? Don't know what you're talking about. Is it really a binary thing between shit people to make money or Hollywood is finished? Oh, wait. I know the one you're talking about now. Okay, so what Luke is basically talking about here is what I would call sometimes an inconvenient truth. The premise of, and it was an op-ed piece, by the way. It wasn't written by one of the regular staffers there. I think it was an op-ed piece. The basic premise of it, and I'm overgeneralizing it, but just for the sake of brevity, was the notion that you need assholes running the show because that's the only way things get done. And that's the basic, I'm oversimplifying it a bit, but that's kind of the basic premise of it, especially when talking about movie studios. They're like, you can't have everybody, you know what they say to parents? You can't be your kid's friend. You have to be their parent, right? You know how they say that? Kind of in the same way what they were saying in the piece is that studio heads need to be assholes. They just do. They need to be the people who make things happen, who make the unpopular decisions that are just taking what's best for the company ahead of people's feelings. You got to be the asshole, right? And without doing a deep analysis of it, which I have not done yet, I will say there's some truth to the article. I mean, there just is. I know that's not the popular thing to say. I know that's not the touchy-feely nice thing to say, but the reality is I think there's at least some parts of it that they're not wrong. There's some parts of it that they're not wrong. And, yeah, I mean, I think some parts of it are overblown. I think some parts of it are wrong, but it's not an entirely wrong thesis. I'll just put it that. It's not an entirely wrong thesis. All right. Next up. Let's see. Noah Kahn writes, have you heard the breaking news that Disney canceled season 2 plans for Wonder Man? Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. It dropped in the last 20 minutes or so. What do you think happened? The only thing I can really think of that happened is the fact that they just couldn't come up with the hook. Remember, Wonder Man, as we said this earlier in the show today, Wonder Man was always supposed to be a limited series. It was supposed to be a one and done season. That's it. But then its tremendous reception and success made them say, you know what, we're going to do another one. And they announced it before coming up with what their hook was going to be. And my guess is, and it's only a guess, my guess is they weren't ever really able to come up with the hook. Like, what would be the hook? What's the basic gist of the story for a season 2? I think they probably couldn't come up with it. Or at least one that they were all happy with. All right, next up. Austin Gallo writes, from a legal perspective, how has Paramount been allowed to get as far as they have with the kind of debt they had going into this? How could the shareholders know of the debt and say, oh yeah, buy WB? It's not an uncommon thing in business. Lots of businesses are in debt, but continue doing business. The question when you buy something is not, are you in debt? The question is, do you have access to the money to pay me? Here's the thing. When I sell you my car, and I sell you my car for, I don't know, $10,000. I'm going to sell you my car for $10,000. All right. Used car, still in good shape, worth 10 grand. I'm going to sell you my car for 10 grand. I don't care if you're $3 million in debt. I don't care. All I care about is when you show up to pick up my car, that you hand me $10,000. I don't care that you had to borrow more money from somebody to give me the $10,000. I don't care if you went behind Jimmy Jack's and gave a blowy to Ed the homeless guy to get $10,000. I don't care if the bank lent you another $10,000. I don't care if you went to a loan shark and got the $10,000. I don't care how much debt you're in. All I care about is that when you show up to buy my car, are you handing me $10,000? And if you're handing me $10,000, that's all I care about. Warner Brothers shareholders are on the same thing. They don't care how in debt Paramount is. All the Warner Brothers shareholders care is when it comes time to execute the deal, are you going to be in possession of the cash, whoever you had to borrow it from, to give to me? Because as long as you're giving me the money, I don't care how much in debt you are. I don't care where you got the money from. And I don't care how much you had to leverage yourself. That's none of my business. All I care is, did you hand me the money? And if you hand me the money, our business is concluded. So yeah, that's the basic gist of it. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Great question though, man. All right. Next up, Austin also writes, the Netflix show Nobody Wants This third season is going to be about Paramount Warner Brothers. I think you're joking because it kind of does. By the way, can I just say that show on Netflix, Nobody Wants This, totally does not look like my kind of show at all. So I didn't really bother watching it, but my wife loved it. And she's like, I want you to sit down and watch a couple of episodes with me. So I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. Cause I like Veronica Mars. I like her. You know what? Great show. It's a really good show. Very well written. The writing of it reminds me a little bit of, I think, one of the sharpest written sitcoms of our generation, which was Modern Family. That's a really sharply written show. It reminds me of the writing in that show. It's really quite good. If you haven't seen Nobody Wants This, it totally may not look like your kind of show. It certainly doesn't look like my kind of show, but it's actually really good. It's actually really good. All right. Next up, Austin also writes in, do you see yourself doing occasional one-off reviews on YouTube for movies even after you retire? Also, you rock, John. Oh, thank you so much. I don't think so. You know what? When I retire, which is still a ways off, by the way, thanks to the new deals I have and everything. But I mean, look, I'm very lucky that I'm in a financial position that I could retire today if I wanted to. I mean, I've been I think I've been very smart with how I handle my money and how I invest and all that kind of stuff. But I've also been lucky and stuff. And I am fortunate that I'm in a position that if I wanted to, I could retire today. But you know, I also signed a great new lucrative sponsorship deal last year. We've got the van, which allows me to travel while still doing the show because I really want to travel. And I've always said that when the day comes that I retire, which I'm guessing will probably be before Secret Wars. I'm not saying that's the deadline. I'm saying it's probably going to be before Secret Wars, probably. At any rate, whenever I do retire, I will probably still do like a once or twice weekly audio only podcast, because doing audio only podcast is super easy compared to doing videos. So I'll probably still do a once or twice a week, really easy audio only podcast. But I don't know, maybe I do like quick little out of theater reviews too, maybe for fun, for shits and giggies. Yeah, that might be something I do. I'll think about that. All right. Next up, we've got Emmanuel who writes, want to temper my expectations, but I have never been more excited for a show than I am for Lanterns. I'll tell you what, man, I'm getting there. I myself am also getting there with the Lanterns thing. That new trailer is fantastic. I thought the first trailer was good. Like I thought the first trailer was pretty good. I liked it. Thumbs up from me for the first trailer, but it didn't like blow my socks off. The Comic-Con trailer blew my socks off. Absolutely blew my socks off. Completely loved it. And I'm going to have to temper my expectations a bit, Emmanuel, too, because my hype level for the show is getting pretty high. All right. Next up, Aaron writes, I love the reference, by the way. When you talk about going to a movie on opening night, is there confusion among your friends about whether that's a Thursday or a Friday? Thursday is so common now. It seems like marketing needs to be updated. You know what? You raise a great point. I don't know why they still say, like, for example, Spider-Man is in theaters today. It's July 30th. But when you look at all the marketing for Spider-Man, it says opening July 31st, Friday. They still advertise that Friday is the opening day. I think the last time I saw a movie that didn't open on Thursday was remember that Melissa McCarthy movie from years ago I think it was called The Kitchen Sink? Is that what, if I'm getting the title wrong, guys, let me know. Was it called Kitchen Sink? I think that was the name of it. Anyway, I remember being shocked because that movie did not have a Thursday screening. And I think that's the last time it happened. Like, or it's called Hell's Kitchen? Hell Kitchen, is that what it's called? I thought it was called Hell Kitchen, whatever it was called. But we all know now, like, when it says a movie opens on Friday, it really opens on Thursday. So I don't know why they continue to promote the Friday like that's the opening day. I'm not sure why they do that. I really don't. Because it doesn't cause a lot of confusion because most people know, but it can cause some confusion. All right, I'm being told that the actual name of the movie is just The Kitchen. That makes sense. Yes, The Kitchen. That makes more sense. Thank you for that. All right. Next up, Geet writes, John, any Hall H update, please? I don't think there's any updates. We queued overnight, had first seating wristbands, but never got in. Jesus. San Diego Comic-Con saying everyone back by 7:30 got in was hurtful. Any truth to Marvel Extra rumors? London, I don't think there's any Marvel Extra rumors. What happened at Comic-Con is a disgrace. And the officials at Comic-Con should be humiliated and should be embarrassed and should be ashamed of themselves. I'm sorry, guys. The way that whole thing is run is a giant clusterfuck. And I've been saying for years, when you have this set of circumstances, it's going to lead to massive issues. The very fact that you have to have people lining up for 10 hours to 15 hours just to get a wristband so they can come back and stand in line again for another X number of hours. Even if that all goes smoothly, that shouldn't be the case. You should not have a system that works like that. It's preposterous. People save up all year to go to Comic-Con, and then they have to spend 1/3 of their time there standing in a line to see a 35-minute panel. And you've known about this for years. You've known about this. You've known this is the situation for years, and you've never done anything to fix it. Every year you say we're going to do something to fix it, and every year you fail. You fail, you fail, you fail. And now you got good-hearted people, like well-meaning people, following all the rules, doing everything they were supposed to do, waste 20 of their hours, and still not get in. You're a disgrace. You're an absolute disgrace. And I say that because I love Comic-Con and I want it to do well and I want it to be great for people who go, but I'm sorry, you guys are incompetent. You guys are straight up fucktard incompetent. And I hope you get your shit together because right now you're just stupid. Anyway, sorry for the experience you had, Geet. Next up, Lester writes, that Spider-Man movie was absolute trash. Restore the goddamn Snyderverse. Oh, yeah. Restore the failure. Yeah, restore the failure. Good on you, Lester. Thank you for sending me $5. Michael J. writes, the Odyssey yesterday in Dolby Cinema, and my ears are still ringing. But my God, what an epic masterpiece. One of my favorite movies of the last decade. Here's the thing. I heard a lot of people, I heard a lot of people not complaining, but noting that the volume in the Odyssey was really loud. But my first screening of it in the 70 millimeter IMAX, I didn't have that experience. It was not all that loud at all. I thought it was perfectly fine. And Christopher Nolan is notorious for bad audio mixing. Now, that said, though, my wife, Anne, then went to go see the Odyssey again the following day. I was working, but she went to go see it again at a Dolby Prime. And she said while it was a much better experience watching it, she said the volume was a lot louder. So I haven't experienced it myself yet, but like hearing from my wife that, yeah, in some other theaters, it's really loud. So I don't know. You shouldn't have these things turned up too loud. And by the way, that's not just the filmmakers. The theater itself has to be cognizant of, hey, might be unacceptably loud. We need to bring it down the volume a little bit. So that's partially on the filmmakers, I think partially on the theater itself. Anyway, thanks for pointing that out, Michael. All right. Next up, Jew writes, The Odyssey 2, Poseidon's Revenge. Well, but if you know the story, Poseidon's anger was satisfied in a way. Like they say in the movie, you have to go out on the sea and accept your punishment. And he went out on the sea, got battered, not allowed to be killed, but he got battered and bruised. But I'd be down for a sequel. Why not? All right. Next up, Cam writes, this will be my first live action Spider-Man film to go out to see on my own as an adult. I was 13 when Homecoming came out, and I'm very excited. Oh, dude, that's special. I still remember the very first movie my parents let me go to see. Let me see if I can bring it up here. That my parents let me go to see when I was, oh no, this wasn't it. This was the first movie I remember after Star Wars seeing. See, my mom took me to see Star Wars when I was obviously a very, very young child. And it's my earliest childhood memory. I don't have any memory before that, and really any memory after that for a couple of years because I was so young, right? But I remember of Star Wars. It was crazy. The next movie I remember seeing in theaters, I was 9. I think I was 9. I think I was 9 years old. But was the Kenny Rogers movie Six Pack in 1982. Kenny Rogers Six Pack was the movie that I saw. Can I click on this and get the poster bigger? Nope, apparently not. But that was, there was Star Wars, and then it was years later, Six Pack. I went to go. Anyway, going to see a movie on your own is a very special thing, man. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a good time with it, because I know I love the movie. That doesn't mean you will, but I hope you do. I hope you have a good time. All right. Next up, we got, where are we at? We're at, Lalit writes, do you feel the fear of making a romantic comedy is real from Nolan? And does the script on paper translate 100% to what we see at the end, or reshapes it as it moves along with directors like Nolan? Well, that's two very different issues. I don't know what you mean by the romantic comedy part, but yeah, listen, you can take the same script, put it into the hands of 5 different directors, and you're going to get 5 different movies that feel different. Even though, I mean, they'll clearly be the same story, but it's one thing to put the movie onto a page. It's another thing to the process of taking that from the page and then visualizing it and actually making a tangible thing out of it. You take the exact same script, put it into the hands of 5 different directors, you're going to get 5 different feeling movies. A great script does not equal a great movie. It's a lot easier to get a great movie out of a great script. It's very, very difficult to get a great movie out of a bad script. But just because you have a really good script does not guarantee you have a great movie at all. It's all about that translate. It's the building blocks. It's the foundation, but it's all about the translation that the director does from the page and bringing it to the screen. So yes, even when it's the same writer, like Christopher Nolan wrote the Odyssey, even when it's the guy writing and directing it, there's going to be translation from the page to the screen. It's all about the director and it going through the director. All right, great question, man. Next up, Guzman writes, I'm on a 10-minute wait line to be able to access the AMC app to see my tickets for Spidey in 15 minutes. What type of madness is this? That could be a real problem. Because when you go to AMC, let's see, I'll just get mine here. You open up your AMC app and like, you got to open your ticket, right? You got to open your ticket. But if you get to AMC and you need to wait for 10 minutes to even open your ticket, that's a problem. Now, they also email you, at least they do for me. Once you register your ticket with AMC, you also get an email. So you should be able to check your email, go into your trash bin if you have to, and you should be able to see the ticket there. But yeah, that's a very practical problem that they've got to figure out a way around that. Because if you can't even get into the site to open up your My AMC section to look at your tickets to show to the ticket taker, that's a problem, man. They got to be able to figure that out. What I will often do is I will take the ticket and either, well, number one, I'll have the email, but sometimes what I do is you're able to add your movie ticket to your wallet, whether you're on iPhone, your Apple Wallet, or my Google Wallet. In this case, you should also be able to take your movie ticket when you buy it and add it to your wallet. That way you don't have to access the AMC site to get in. But that's a real problem, Goose. You'll get in, but that is a very practical problem. Let's see. Next up, Mr. Moore writes, this film was perfect. Thoughts, John? Gotta know what movie you're talking about. Are you talking about the Odyssey or you're talking about Spider-Man? Either way, I don't think either movie is perfect. I think I've seen two perfect movies. Yeah, I think maybe in my lifetime I've seen two perfect movies. One of them is Amelie. It's perfect. I don't think it's the best movie of all time, but for what it is, there is no flaw. Like Amelie, I'm sure some of you haven't seen it. Amelie is a damn near perfect movie. The other is Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption is a perfect movie. I mean, just everything is done completely right. I'm not saying it's the best movie of all time, but my God, it's a perfect movie. It's just, Other than those two, I never say anything is perfect. Except for maybe, as Adam is pointing out, Morbius. Morbius, clearly a perfect movie. Anyway, yeah. All right. But I certainly, if you're talking about Odyssey or Spider-Man, fabulous, amazing movies. Perfect? No, but absolutely incredible. Love both of them. All right, next up. Quantum of Zen writes, Paramount needs a refund on their One Wish Willow and to start subscribing to whatever wishing service Tom Holland uses. Yeah, man, and I don't think we're near the end either. This Paramount thing has gotten really messy. Honestly, the best course of action for Paramount at this point is just to say, hey, we've opted to go in a new direction and just get out of this Warner Brothers deal. I think this is I don't think anything good lies ahead of them pursuing it. I think they know it too. And I think they're planning on getting out of it. That's just conjecture on my part, but we'll see how that goes. It's not working out so well for them so far. All right. Sora fan writes, just got back from my first of 5 screenings. Happy to report that I will definitely have a blast seeing this in 4DX and ScreenX. We'll report back on Monday. Dude, I was lucky enough that the Amazon fan screening that Ann and I attended last night was in the AMC Dolby Prime, which is my favorite theater. Beautiful presentation. Fantastic. I don't know if I'd want to see this one in a 4DX one. That's the one that where the chairs shake, right? I don't know that I want to see Spider-Man in the 4DX one, but I definitely am down for seeing it in the larger format as well, like AMC XL, an IMAX screen. I don't think it's going to get an IMAX screening, but maybe an AMC XL. What's the Regal one called? RPX or something? Guys in the live chat, do you know what the name of the large format Regal theater is? I think 4DX is the shaking one. That's not a Regal exclusive, but what's the name of their larger format screens? RPX. Thank you, Prince Entertainment. RPX is the name of it. I would love to see it in like AMC XL, Regal's RPX. I would love to go back, but I'll probably go back and watch it in Prime again. All right, next up. Tyshawn sends in a $50 super chat. Thank you, Tyshawn. Appreciate that, man. Thank you for supporting our channel on that level, man. And Tyshawn writes, brand new day feels more mature, like Batman Begins, despite earlier Spider-Man films with Holland. Do you think Spidey 5 will follow the Dark Knight's path, embracing a darker tone and pitting Peter against an unstoppable villain? No, because that wouldn't be Spider-Man. That's not Spider-Man. What I think they did so well in this movie was Peter is not a high school student anymore. He's not even college age anymore. Like they're at this movie starts off where these like Ned, MJ, him, they're post college age now, right? They're adults. And yet it's still Spidey. You know, I'll just use an example from one of the trailers. When he's facing off against the guards, is like, okay, wait a minute, let's stretch first. You guys stretch, you big stretcher? Yeah, I'm not in high school anymore. And he's grown up, he's an adult, but he's still Spider-Man. A Dark Knight treatment of Spider-Man wouldn't be Spider-Man. Like that playfulness of Spider-Man, even in the face of certain death sometimes. That's a core, if not the core essential element to the character of Spider-Man. That's the whole nature of his character. That's not whether he's 5'7" or 5'8". That's not whether he has hazel hair or chestnut hair. None of that. That is a core essence of his character, is that playfulness, that whimsy that Spider-Man is. So I think they did a great job in the movie of showing that he's an older version of that now, a more mature version, but he's still that guy. And so I don't think a Dark Knight treatment for Spider-Man would be serving Spider-Man. So no, I think in any future Spider-Man movies, I think this movie, Brand New Day, sets the template. For what they're going to do. This is now adult Peter Parker, and how adult Peter Parker is adult, yet still Peter Parker. I think this is the movie that sets the template for that. Anyway, thank you so much for the question, Tyshawn. And again, thank you so much for supporting us on that level, man. It's incredibly generous of you, and everybody who watches the show thanks you for supporting the show as well, man. That's amazing. Thank you so much. All right. Next up, we got Benji Gator, who writes, it was awesome to see Mrs. Campea as Judy from Cyberpunk 2077 at San Diego Comic-Con. How well do you know the game, and could the material work as a live-action adaptation? Yeah, Cyberpunk could work with a lot of adaptation. I mean, that's one of those... I think Cyberpunk 2077 is one of those games that is clearly designed for gameplay. It's not designed for narrative on-screen storytelling, but that world they have and the basic bones of what their narrative is, like with Keanu Reeves's character and all that kind of stuff. I think the bones are there for a heavily adapted screen presentation of it, like movie version, maybe better suited as an HBO series or an Apple TV series or something like that. But yeah, I think the bones are there for it, but they would have to have some pretty heavy adaptation, I think. All right. Next up, Scott D writes, Wonder Man and Trevor continue the story in Shang-Chi 2. I don't think you can do I think if you're doing Shang-Chi 2, you got to have Trevor in it. Doesn't have to have Wonder Man, but I think you got to have Trevor in it. So yeah, listen, Trevor has now been in Iron Man. He's been in Shang-Chi, and he's been in Wonder Man. I think Trevor is the best secondary character in all of the MCU. Luis from Ant-Man, I would put as a close second. But yeah, I think Trevor's just the best secondary side character in the MCU. I think he's great. And I would love to see him brought back in Shang-Chi 2. I'd be very disappointed if they didn't bring him back in Shang-Chi 2. All right. GK Beetle writes, favorite D&D class and subclass, love the show. Well, I mean, here's the thing. When I was younger, I would always play the very simple wizards. As a matter of fact, my first Dungeons & Dragons character, my very first one, don't laugh at me, I was a kid, but my wizard's name was Zap. Yes, the naming Einstein that I am, I named my wizard character Zap. Zap. Now then, for a lot of years, I was always the dungeon master of my group. So I didn't actually play a lot of characters. Right now, in the campaign that we are currently doing, I'm playing a straight up paladin named Rampagius. Rampagius is, again, naming Einstein here. And it's my first time ever playing a paladin. And I got to tell you, I'm really digging the paladin. The paladins are such a versatile class that, yeah, I'm very much enjoying it very much. All right. Next up, we've got Benji Gator, who writes, what a year for Tom Holland and Zendaya. Odyssey, Spider-Man, Dune 3, maybe Doomsday. He's not in Doomsday. Could this be a record single year at the box office run for one or both? Well, I mean, they're only both in Odyssey and Spider-Man. Again, what I thought was really funny, and I brought this up on the show yesterday. I believe this is the first time in cinema history. No one has contradicted me on this yet. I might be wrong, but nobody has shown me anything to the contrary. I think this weekend, after this weekend, on Monday, will be the first time in Hollywood history that the number one and the number two movies at the box office are going to have three of the same actors in both. John Bernthal, Zendaya, Tom Holland. Spider-Man Brand New Day, The Odyssey. Both starring Zendaya, Tom Holland, John Bernthal. In both. I don't think that's ever happened before in cinema history. Again, could be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. And I've asked people, if you know of another example of that, please bring it to my attention, but nobody has yet. So I think it's the first time. And that is pretty wild to me. That is pretty wild. All right, next up. Calum writes, House of the Dragon needs to deliver the last 2 episodes. Well, I'm sure they are going to deliver them. I'm sure we're going to get them. Or do you mean they have to deliver? You know what? I'm going to tell you this right now. The last 2 episodes of House of the Dragon could completely crap the bed and I wouldn't care. This has been a great season. I have loved this season. And even if the final 2 episodes suck, it'll, be unfortunate and it will knock the season down a little bit. But I think every episode up until this point has been so freaking good. I can't believe how much I love this show. And this season has been fantastic. So I have no reason to believe they won't deliver on the last 2 episodes. I'm sure they will. But even if they didn't, even if the last 2 episodes completely crap the bed, I think I'm still very happy with the season. It's kind of like Peacemaker season 2 to me. I think the finale, the final episode of Peacemaker season 2 was crap. But it doesn't matter. Like, I still think the season as a whole was really good. Like, I really love the season, even though I think the finale sucked. But yeah, I mean, I hope they deliver in the final 2 episodes. I think they'll deliver on the final 2 episodes. But even if they don't and they shit the bed, I'm still going to be really happy with this season. I've been very entertained by it. All right. Next up, where are we at? Eric writes, I just hope they do Cyclops good in the future X-Men films. Let's not forget he's the leader of the X-Men. Well, he's often the leader of the X-Men. He's not always the leader of the X-Men. technically speaking, Professor Xavier is the leader of the X-Men. But yes, your point is well made, and I agree. I'm a big fan of the Fox era of the X-Men films. Yes, some of them sucked. You know, Wolverine, X-Men 3, which I still think had its upsides, but overall wasn't a very good film. X-Men Age of Apocalypse, X-Men the Phoenix movie. But, you know, X-Men 1, X-Men 2, Logan, X-Men Days of Future Past. I'm a fan of them. But even though I'm a fan of the X-Men, of the Fox era of the X-Men films, they totally botched Cyclops. They had the right guy to play him, James Marsden, who I'm so glad is back for Avengers Doomsday. I'm so glad he's back, but they totally botched that. They had the perfect guy playing the role, and they just nerfed him and made him a secondary side thought. And yeah, now don't get me wrong. You don't have to make, in my opinion, you don't have to make Cyclops the Captain America of the X-Men necessarily, but give him more respect than what he got, in those first couple of X-Men films. All right. Next up, Jaspreet writes, a lot of the early reviews for Spider-Man said it felt too overstuffed with characters. Not many of them said that. I did not feel that at all. No, I don't. Not a lot of them. There were a few that felt that way, and I'm sure they honestly felt that way. I disagree. I don't think the majority of the reviews thought that, though. Again, not discounting that there are a few who did, and there's nothing, I'm not saying they're wrong. That's how they felt. Perfectly fair. I disagree. I did not think it felt overstuffed with characters at all. Yeah, I thought it flowed really, really well. It worked for me. Clearly, it worked for you as well. All right, guys. And that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to the thousands of you guys in the live chat. It's been such fun watching you guys chat and throwing in your comments and answering some questions I had. Thank you so much for your participation in the live chat. And also a big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those super chats. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I am now going to go make myself a little something to eat for lunch and then head off to watch Spider-Man Brand New Day again. Yes, I'm going to go watch again. Oh, and by the way, guys, you are the first ones to hear this. I think you are the first ones to hear this, maybe. But this Sunday, it'll be earlier in the day, but this Sunday will be our open spoiler discussion of Spider-Man Brand New Day. So you got today, tomorrow, and the first part. Yeah, today, tomorrow, and Saturday to get out and see Spider-Man Brand New Day. And then on Sunday, we're going to do a big, I'm sure it's going to be a couple of hours long, a big, open, glorious spoiler discussion on the movie. I cannot wait for that, and I can't wait for you guys to join us for that. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. Come back and join us again tomorrow. Robert Meyer Burnett is back in the house tomorrow. Looking forward to having him back. And Jonathan Voikel will be back again tomorrow. Hopefully you'll be joining us too. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.